from what we gather from what Ed tells us and what I read in the papers, Iran has the fastest growing Christian community that is on earth. And I think we could agree, being Christians, that Iran was a very dark place for a long time. And it still is, if you admit you've converted from Islam to Christianity, they're probably going to kill you. But the people of Iran have seen the darkness, and they've seen the light too, because God can get anywhere He wants to get. The Iranian government might try to think they can keep Jesus out of their country. All they say is good luck with that, because throughout the Muslim testimonies that I've listened to, many of them are Jesus appearing to them in dreams, and the Iranian government's not going to be able to stop that. They might try to put a camera in your room or something, but that's how Jesus is going to get to people, and He always has. People always will ask me, well, what about, wherever they decide is the most rural place? And I just tell them, well, Jesus is everywhere. Jesus can get to anybody. And as He does in Iran, where it's illegal to be a Christian and illegal to use the gospel, Jesus is appearing to people in dreams. And the people are looking at what Iran was, particularly the women, looking at what Islam teaches about them and how their salvation is going to be something that might not be quite so great. And they're looking at that and saying, well, I'm not really up for that. And they're looking at what the Bible says, and particularly about women, particularly about how Jesus felt about women. As a matter of fact, we know that the resurrection was witnessed by women, by Mary. She was the first one to witness it. And Jesus revealed Himself first to the women that were around Him. And I think that's a strong message to the women in Iran, that Jesus wants them to have a place in heaven where they're not treated like Islam is going to be treating them. And the other thing about that particular part of the story is that if you were going to, we're talking about some people being derogatory about the Bible, if you were going to make up a story about an event of the time, the last person that you would have as your main evidence is a woman, because women's testimony wasn't worth anything in those days. If they were going to make up a story, they would have had the high priest be the one that witnessed Jesus come out of the grave, but they didn't. And those guys, they said, well, I don't know. Women may not be, their testimony might not be worth anything, but this is what happened. We're just going to tell you. This is what really happened. Was women were the first one that saw Him. They came back and tried to convince the guys that that's what they saw, and the guys didn't first believe it. They had to go see it themselves. That hasn't changed that much, I don't think. But that's the type of things that have, I think, convinced the women in Iran anyway that the Christianity is the better route to go. And I believe that that's happening not just to women but to men as well, because it is the fastest growing one. And what's going on right now, I can see that there might be a change coming there. Wouldn't that be interesting if Iran would become a Christian state?
Well, the crown prince has said that when it falls, that if he comes into power, that it will be a secular government.
It's better than what's going there now.
And it's within days of falling.
Yeah, might be.
And they're burning everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I think that my observation to all that would be looking at Romans chapter 11, where Paul is encouraging Gentiles to provoke the Jews to jealousy. He says it twice in there, and you ask yourself, well, what is it? What should a Jew, what should a person of the Muslim religion or any other religion or no religion, what is it that we have that they should be jealous of, that they should want? What do we actually have to offer? And being moral is great, but I'm not sure that's what it is. A lifestyle, any of these other things. What we have is a relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to understand, first of all, they should see it in us, of course, but if they want to know more, they should understand who Jesus is and why that's the most important relationship they could ever have. And the other observation, especially when you start talking about things like Islam, is that for a believer, we know now where we will be.
Yeah.
The Muslims do not know this. They have to die to get to know whether they pass the final exam or not, as John Lennox puts it. They have to wait until death to find out where they stand with God. A believer knows now.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe Jesus said, "Come to me and I will give you rest for your soul." How can you possibly have rest for your soul if you don't know whether your soul's going to end up in heaven?
So going back to the topic of Iran, so it's interesting too that one of the witnesses that the people have there to some extent is the witness of their elders. Because we often forget that it wasn't that long ago, because the revolution that brought in the current government was in 1979.
Right.
So before that, children in Iran were taught a worldview that it wasn't particularly a Christian worldview, but it was much more biblical. They were taught about that they were the country where Esther was. They were taught about the wise men being from their country. They were taught about Daniel. They were taught about a lot more biblical knowledge. So that has stayed in the families there too. And so that could be potentially a seed that has made it possible for the church to grow so rapidly in Iran today.
And there's people there that could testify to the fact that Iran used to be actually a really nice place to go.
Yes.
There's people who wanted to go there. You don't want to go there now, especially if you're a Christian. But yeah, there's that testimony that there used to be a different way that it exists, and now it's governed by people that are legalists, and extreme legalists, and
If it does fall, is there going to be a witness against, Islam? Did they let? How come they couldn't keep the power?